Welcome, have a seat.
Thanks.
So let's talk about the position. What do you think qualifies you to be a mom?
Well, as you can see on my resume, I have listed several references.
Yes, I see your mother is listed as a reference. Does she believe you're qualified for this position?
Oh, she goes on and on about wanting a grandbaby.
I see, and what qualifications do you have though?
Well, I babysat here and there in high school, and my husband and I have been taking care of our dog Toby for 3 years. Plus, I'm a really good cook.
Really? What do you cook?
Well, I cook Lucky Charms.
Huh. Lucky Charms.
Not to mention my PB&Js.
Really? Tell me more.
Well, I can get peanut butter all the way to the edges of the bread, and I can even cut them into little triangles.
Well, that's perfect. What kind of jelly do you use?
I use jam.
Jam. Okay, well, you've got a great resume, but let's go through some of the responsibilities. It says here the client is going to require you to drive. This position more or less requires you to be a chauffeur. You've got to drive places like the supermarket, soccer games, school, team meets, possibly the emergency room. You're going to need to drive quite a bit. So do you have a license?
Oh, yes.
Really? And what kind of car do you have?
Oh, I drive a smart car.
Oh, yeah. You're going to need a minivan?
Okay, I can do that, I think.
Okay, some other things. The client says we'll need you to help cook, clean, do the laundry, help with homework, make sure the clients are clean and go to bed on time, and that they brush their teeth.
Sounds pretty routine.
Yeah, I assure you it's not. The trickiest part is really going to be the teenage years. That's the hard one. You're going to be required to deal with hormonal rampages, teenage heartbreak, puberty, the talk, and you won't be rewarded really in any fashion until their parents themselves and learn to appreciate you.
I think I'm qualified, sir.
No one is qualified for this, ma'am, let me assure you. It's really a matter of the heart. Can you just be there for them?
Yes, sir, Mr. LeFay.
It's pronounced life. Well, great. We do require a 9-month unpaid internship. Is that all right with you?
Unpaid? I don't know.
Just so we're clear, this job doesn't pay actual money. The first year it says we will pay in happy baby giggles, irresistible cuteness. The rest we pay in, there's some side perks, pride, and if you're lucky, the occasional thank you.
So, I'll need a second job?
You still want the position?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Fantastic. We'll let you know in about a month.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. LeFay.
It's life. Shannon, can you send Patrick in for our dad position?
Sure thing. How'd it go?
She has no idea what she just signed up for, but I think she'll be good. Please take a seat.
Good. Take a seat.
You're hired.
Hello and happy Mother's Day weekend to all the moms and grandmas here. It's Mother's Day weekend, but like last year, our visitations are gonna have to be virtual or by phone, or what we're doing is we're gonna drop off Mother's Day meal in a box. I know that my mom really misses us and our kids, so next year we're saving it all up for the big celebration. Now, I've always felt a little bit out of space teaching about Mother's Day because I am a man, I'm a dad, and my experience is so different than for a mom. The emotions, the expectations, and the responsibilities are so different. So that's like what you saw in the video. So it's with some trepidation that I'm sharing about motherhood. And I need to make a mental note to invite some of the moms to share next year. So every mom will tell you that being a mom is hard. There's no other job like it in this world because it changes you. You are on 24/7 and it's a thankless job. It takes every part of you and it will take you to your highest of highs and your lowest of lows. And it has been described like a roller coaster ride, but it lasts an entire lifetime. So I've been reading on some of the shared experiences of motherhood, and I came across this one that I think captures feelings of motherhood. Motherhood is quite a journey. It is the most transformative and epic experience I have ever gone through. Once I became a mother, I could no longer see life through any other lens. I am forever changed as a person, and I will carry the profound responsibility of being a mom for the rest of my life. It has humbled and challenged me immensely. Emily De Silva. So I'm sure some of you can relate to what she said. I also asked some of you, the moms in our church, to share your experiences and thoughts. And I asked 2 questions. First question, what has been the hardest thing about being a mom during this time? Running the household, feeding the family 3 times a day, cleaning, and lots of multitasking. Learning not to say anything to my teens when they have bad attitudes. Computer use. It's the only way that my kids socialize with their friends. Sometimes I feel like I'm so mean not giving them game time, but if I let them play without limit, I feel bad too. Having no alone time and forgetting who you are outside of being a mom. Not getting angry, irritated, impatient with the kids when you're with them all the time. I pray constantly to be more patient, gentle, kind, and loving every day. The meal planning and hearing them ask, what's for lunch? What's for dinner? Every day. Trying to get the kids outside to enjoy the sunshine and get some much needed vitamin D. Supporting everyone at home physically and mentally has been tough. So it's been hard. So I asked the second question, what has been joyful surprises of being a mom during this time? I really enjoy seeing my kids a lot. Lots of family time to bond, to play, and to learn together. Praying together for ourselves and for others. Finding creative ways to stay active and exercise. A slower pace of life and not rushing around for social visits. Bringing kids alongside with things like cooking, cleaning, etc. The quality time together, especially now that they are adults and we have more interests in common. When my kids come to me and say, Mom, I love you, and give me a big hug and kiss. There's never a dull moment, and motherhood has made this pandemic bearable because it gives me quality time I would otherwise not have. Seeing how grown up they are, have become independent students, making their own meals at times, and they go out to walk on their own initiative without nagging and helping with dishes without me asking. Thank you for these sharings and thoughts. So the ups and the downs, the joys and the challenges, it really is a ride of a lifetime. And it has been extra challenging at this time, but I must say to all of you moms here, you are doing great. My hat's off to all of you. I commend you with all of your tenacity, your adaptability, and your creativity. And to all the children and students here, if you're watching with your mom right now, don't you think they've done a great job through this time? There have been so many added things for them to worry about on top of taking care of you guys, making sure you're healthy, fed, and safe. Don't you think they deserve a big hug? Or at least they deserve a heartfelt thank you, Mom. So you can pause me right now and you can go over and thank your mom and give her that big hug. All right. So we have wonderful moms in our lives, but let's remember that they do not and will not live up to all of your expectations and demands. You know, in our minds, we have certain ideals, right? We have images and standards of what a perfect mom should be like. And it was like this for me because I grew up in the greatest generation, and we had great TV shows like Leave It to Beaver and The Brady Bunch. And in these shows, the moms, June Cleaver and Carol Brady, they were the image of the perfect mom, the American mom. And they were kind and wise. They never got angry. And their kids were generally well behaved and proper. And they knew how to take care of every family situation. And the house was always tidy and neat and all that happy stuff. I actually fantasized about being a part of these families. Because when I thought about my home and my mom, I felt deflated. I felt like I was the only kid in the world who didn't have this perfect mom. And when I was a kid, I was convinced I had the most uncool, the most ill-informed mom in the world. And the kids at school, they reminded me about this. Like on school photo day, when we're supposed to wear our best clothes. Well, my mom, she gave me the best shirt, which happened to be a shirt that she had sewn with leftover fabric. And I remember wearing that shirt. It was stiff. It was like canvas, but I felt proud of that shirt. I went to school until my friend looked at me and stared at me and said, "Brian, what's wrong with your shirt? What happened to your pocket? How come it's crooked and doesn't match up?" Then I felt deflated. And then school lunches. All the kids packed normal sandwiches in normal lunch boxes. But my mom, she violated all the rules. My lunch was packed in a recycled tofu hop, and inside wasn't a sandwich. It was something stir-fried with strong garlicky smells. Not exactly good lunch bartering material. But over the years, it became clear to me that my mom is unique. She is who she is, given to me by God to raise me and to shape me, and I love her for this. She has all of her quirks and imperfections, just like all moms do, and they come in all varieties with all their quirkiness. They are imperfect people doing the best that they know how. So today, what I want to do is to remind us that God uses imperfect people, like you and me, to accomplish his work in this world. So here's my main idea. God uses all moms with their limitations and shortcomings to do God's work of shaping you to accomplish his will. So there it is. We have a loving and sovereign God who has created you with a purpose. So what I want to do today is take somewhat of a random survey of the Bible and look at some of the moms in Scripture. And we will see all of them, every single one of them were used by God despite their faults and misgivings. And God offers his grace as he redeems them so that he can fulfill his will. And some of these character studies that we do, there's kind of a tendency to Christianize them a little bit too much. We tend to make the same mistake of overlooking their faults and forgetting about their humanity. We tend to focus only on all the good stuff. Now, I'm not saying that we should focus on all the sins and faults. Of course not. But neither should we idealize them, idolize them, put them on this pedestal as if they were the perfect model of humanity. And this can cause us to feel discouraged because we can't relate to this perfection. Because in reality, every mom and every Bible character in the Bible is like you and me. They were human, like us, with imperfections. But the good news is that we are loved, forgiven, and used by God. So let's do a quick survey of some of the moms in the Bible with this video from Igniter Media, Moms in the Bible.
Taken from the side of Adam, gifted with bringing forth life, the first woman was named Eve because she was the mother of all living. But she was also a mother in her own right, the first of many mothers to come. Though Sarah's womb was closed, God promised nations and kings would come from her. 10 years pass, and motherhood seems as impossible as the day it was promised. But the Lord is faithful to keep his promises, and Sarah bore a son who made her laugh. Leah was the firstborn, overlooked by her husband Jacob, who gave his heart to her younger sister. When the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb. Despite Jacob's disdain, she found her motherhood in the Lord. When Pharaoh became angry at the fruitfulness of the Hebrews, Jochebed sacrificed her motherhood for the sake of her son. When Pharaoh's daughter saw the child, she had compassion on him. Because of Jochebed's sacrificial motherhood, the Israelites found freedom. Naomi was a mother who experienced the loss of her sons, yet she gained a daughter in Ruth who declared, "For where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people." your God, my God. Naomi and Ruth became family by faith. Mary, a virgin and not yet married, was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. The motherhood of this blessed woman was more than the continuation of a family name, but a means for God to bring a Savior into the world to save His people from their sins. From the garden to the cross, there have always been mothers. These women paved the way for all women, representing the full spectrum of the ways one could be called mom. Whether a mother in faith, mentorship, adoption, or by birth, you play an important role in the stories of generations to come. To all the Sarahs, Leahs, Jochebeds, and Naomis, Happy Mother's Day.
So Eve, Sarah, Leah, Jochebed, Naomi, and Mary. Amazing women who modeled and paved the way for us. They have been a model of courage, of faith, and of resiliency. And they were also very human with their frailties, their fears and faults. Let's look at Eve, the very first woman on this earth, the first wife, and she was known as the mother of all living. What a title, the mother of all living. And she was made in God's image and became Adam's companion, his helper, and the one who would complete him. And together they gave us human relationships, friendships, and marriage. But Eve, she was deceived. Satan deceived her, and she was told that God is holding out on you. God didn't want to share with you his knowledge of good and evil. So she fell to temptation and sinned. So our first mom was responsible for bringing sin into this world. Can you imagine living with this and having the title, the mother of first sin? And you thought you made some big mistakes in this life? Try to imagine her kids talking back to her when she catches them doing something wrong. Mom, if you hadn't done you know what, then I wouldn't be doing what I had just done. But God would redeem Eve. He would promise through her seed that Jesus would come to save and to liberate us. Okay, what about Sarah? God had given a tremendous promise to both Sarah and Abraham. They would become the mother and father of a brand new race, of a new nation called the tribe, the nation of Israel. And what an honor to be chosen. So she faithfully waited and waited and waited. But she was frustrated. She still had not a single child. So in her frustration, she wavered in her faith and she decided to take matters into her own hands. So her plan? She took her maid and asked her to sleep with her husband Abraham. So she allows Abraham to sleep with Hagar, and they had a son, Ishmael. So in her doubt, Sarah had sidestepped God's timing and promise. And you would think that's the end of it for her. But no, God had not forgotten his promise. He kept his promise. And even in her old age, God opened her womb and she gave birth to Isaac. She became the mother of a nation, Israel. And although she struggled with faith, Sarah was the first woman named in the great Hall of Fame of Faith in Hebrews 11. So let's look at another one, Jochebed. Her name probably isn't that familiar to you, but you will remember the name of her son, Moses. So when Jochebed gave birth to her little baby, the Pharaoh decreed that all baby boys were to be tossed in the river Nile. Pharaoh had an insecure issue, and he was afraid that one of these boys will challenge his throne. So of course, Jochebed wanted her son to live. So she took a basket and put tar around it and waterproofed it. And she put her baby inside and she let it float down the river Nile. And that's when Pharaoh's daughter, she spotted that basket and took in the child and raised it as her own. So this must have been a painful thing for Jochebed to do. But this showed her incredible trust in God's faithfulness. She trusted God with her own son's life. It must have been absolutely heartbreaking to give up her greatest love and her dreams. But she did what many people have to do down through the ages, accepting what life has given them. Many people wanted things like maybe a happy marriage, a successful career, developing a talent, or some worthy goal. But the circumstances didn't allow for it. So, how do we get through these heartbreaking disappointments? Well, we do this by turning it over to God. This is what Jochebed did. She entrusted her baby to his care. Jochebed had no idea what would happen. And Moses, he ended up becoming one of God's greatest leaders. So letting go is hard. Letting go is painful, but it's a part of life. By letting go and trusting God, this is an act of faith which allows God to be in control. And when we allow God to be in control, his dream unfolds. So like Jochebed, we won't always know and see what God's going to be doing, but we can trust in God's good and gracious plan. So we can see that all these moms, they experience real humanity and hardships, and they were put to the test. And the test often caused them to make choices that cause tremendous pain to themselves and to others. But in spite of these faults and imperfection, God still works through them. And we have the same God who works through you to accomplish his will. So let's look at a final story about two unnamed women in the Old Testament. And it's a familiar story. It's a story of two single mothers. Each had given birth to a baby boy about the same time. And during the night, one of the mother awakens and she discovers her baby is cold and not breathing. So in shock and distraught, she goes over to her roommate's sleeping baby. She switches the dead baby for this baby. And then later on, the other mother awakes and she finds her child dead. She wails in grief, but after taking a closer look, she realizes this is not my child. So here we have both women standing before the king, the wisest King Solomon, and they're shouting at each other, "That child is mine. No, you're a liar and a thief. He's mine. You stole it from me. The dead baby, that's yours." So Solomon, he heard enough. He raises his voice and says, "Stop. Bring me my sword. I will split the baby in half. Each one of you will take a piece of the child." And of course, everyone's shocked. Solomon's logic seems ludicrous. Cutting the baby in half? It sounds like nonsense. It is fair. It is the middle ground, but there are no winners. So, what was Solomon's logic? Was he a maniac? Surely he knew there's no win situation here, and most readers, we assume that he knew the outcome. He expected the real mom to step up, surrender her claim so that the child wouldn't be killed. But consider this other perspective from a commentator. The fact that the real mother would rather give up the child may not have been part of his thinking. In other words, the true mother may have taught Solomon the true meaning of parenting, and with that acquired knowledge, he did the right thing. Wow, what a fascinating comment, eh? Solomon might not have been wise as wise as we assume. The true mother may have taught Solomon the true meaning of parenting. This is a powerful statement. For sure, real motherhood and the real mother in her story teaches us a lot. Verse 26, moved out of love for her son, she said to the king, "Please, my lord, give her the living baby. Don't kill him." This is such a powerful response that comes with deep pain and sacrifice. And her response shows that compassion and sacrifice. Now, she was a single mom. Perhaps it was no choice of her own. Maybe she had no options, but she did what she needed to do to provide for herself and her son. And in spite of a less than ideal life and her circumstances, we see a deep and compassionate love for her son. We feel that urgency and that desperation in her voice. So when Solomon calls for the sword, he took a risk. He could not have guaranteed the outcome, but he wanted to get to the truth. He wanted to expose the liar. And in the end, the false mom shows her true colors when she says, "He shall be neither mine or yours. Divide him." But the real mom of the baby, she begs, "No, give her the living child." And this is the heart of a mom. Sacrifice. She gave up her dreams, her hopes, even if it meant giving up her son. Real moms willingly give for the good of their child, and sacrifice is a deep part of motherhood. And I can see this in all of you, moms. And it takes maturity to see it in our moms and to recognize it. And if you have parents who had immigrated here to Canada, you have a pretty good sense of what their struggle has been. With no formal education, with no language skills, no employable skills, but yet they made the tremendous sacrifice for you and me. All moms, they make sacrifices. My mom did this like all of your moms did. My mom worked like 6 days a week, sometimes 7, and she never refused overtime because that meant a little extra money for the family. And she never took time off. She did the same thing day after day, week after week, year after year, without complaint. And I owe who I am to my mom. She gave me such a strong example of love and sacrifice. And because of her example, she gave me a great start to life here. I have to admire the amazing example to follow. All of our moms, they made tremendous sacrifices so that you and I could have a good start. And deep in their hearts, they want you to flourish. They want you to grow, which is the same thing God wants for you and me. And all of our moms, they've done this quietly, without the need for recognition, without the need for applause or a medal. And they have done it because this is the heart of a mom. Okay, I think I've said too much already on this topic, which I know very little about. But to all of you, the moms, trust in God with His calling on your life. He will give you what you need to raise your children. He will give you patience and wisdom and His comfort through those difficult times. And it's a calling that's filled with lots of ups and lots of downs, lots of joys and sorrows. But through it all, remember, God is shaping you and using you to shape His children. Blessings to you.